Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for this welcome. Railroads business requirements to facilitate better freight transportation systems, and this not from a technical point of view, more from a perspective of a regulator. My talk will be about a little bit the European policy about rail freight system. Then the new corridor approach. It's an approach from a corridor to a freight network in Europe. And the third part will be about all these elements or these keywords you mentioned before: competition, safety requirements, and those things. What is the European policy for freight rail in the next years? We have finished and finalized the white paper in the last year, and this is a strategy to 2050. This is a long period, and what we want to implement and what we want to develop is a little bit otherwise what I heard here in the Arab area, because the first point safeguards the current rail network. So we are not in the situation to build new network in Europe. We are more in the situation to maintain the existing network, to upgrade the existing networks. That means more speed, more capacity, and other things. Another important point, and you heard it in the morning also from my state secretariat, is connecting important airports to the rail network. The connection between the different transport modes is very important, and is especially very important for freight. And this is connecting road, waterways, and railways. But for passenger trains, it's very important to connect important airports. At the moment in Germany, we have only one very good connecting in this system, and this is Frankfurt Airport, where a high-speed train stops. And the other airports, they are always regional or local trains. The next point is also very important for our policy: shift 50% of medium-distance passengers traffic to rail. This has to do with two big elements. The first is environmental, and the other is noise, and that the roads are full in Europe. So we must do something. We must bring passengers on rail instead using their cars. Similar, we want to increase the freight transport on rail, but we have a clear, we see very clear what is possible, and possible is it if the distance of the transport is more than 300 kilometers. Nobody believes in Europe that there's a good idea to use rail transport for short distance. And the last point is also important: to expand high-speed rail network. That means faster speed than 200 kilometers by factor 3 until 2030. At the moment in Germany, with a little bit another definition, what is high speed? We believe it's more than 160 kilometers per hour. 700 kilometers high speed line in Germany, and I don't think that we are the one in Europe who must expand it with factor 3. What means this for the legal part of the railways? We need more harmonization, and you heard in the morning very often the word interoperability. It's harmonization. What kind of harmonization? I will come later. And we need more liberalization. At the moment, we have an open market in Europe for freight transport. We don't have the right of cabotage for passenger trains. This is what is missing in our liberalization policy. The next point: develop legal framework, roles and responsibility. It's very important if you want to change the railway, and for you it's very important if you want to implement first time a railway, to make very clear who is responsible for what. And the last point, once again, we believe for freight the right idea in Europe is the so-called corridor approach. A little bit looking in the past, what we have done in Europe in the last 15 years. you find a lot of things, but you can describe the European railway approach with 5 words. 2 words you find here. It's liberalization, to open the market. We have, and you heard it before from Mr. Peter Haags, we have closed railway systems in Europe, so we must open the market. And if you liberalize a market, you need a powerful regulator, and therefore the second word is regulation. And when we discuss this, and if you look very precise to the slide, we start in 1991 with the liberalization and with the directive of licensing and network access. And then we are waiting. What happened in the railway market? And then we heard very often, we have technical problems. So we start in 1996 with the second, or in my summary, the third very important word, this is harmonization. We called it interoperability. Why interoperability and why not harmonization? Because it's very clear that we cannot harmonize a so complex system like railways to 100%. So our approach was to harmonize as far as necessary for 2 things. First, for cross-border traffic. What we want to have is that the trains, freight and passenger trains, can operate cross-border. What is not necessary to achieve this target, we don't harmonize. So harmonization, yes, but only, once again, as far as possible or as necessary for this objective. The 4th word we heard also in the morning is competition. And competition, I can say it again, is in Europe a 2-step approach. The first step was to increase competition on rail. If you are looking to the old systems, in Germany we have one big railway, DB,